welcome to the Sega Nerdcast, episode 90. I'm Chris, the editor of Sega Nerds, and with me today is Kopke and Marcin. How's it going, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
Man, I'll tell you what, it has been forever since we've done one of these. There's a lot that's happened in between episode 89 and 90 of the Sega Nerdcast. For one, I don't live in Maryland anymore. I moved to further northeast to New Jersey, and I am in an entirely new state now. Crazy.
You moved, yes. It's been actually approximately 2 months since our last Nerdcast, so it's been a while.
Yeah, it seems way longer than that.
Well, that's because you did a lot of shit. That's why it seems so longer. But yeah, it's been like 2 months. And how has your move been? Has it been smooth, or was it kind of shaky?
It's actually not been too bad. But the biggest thing is we bought a house up here in New Jersey, so all my other moves up to this point have been relatively easy because you just move in. You either we've always been renting a house, so we don't really have to worry about a lot of things because most of the things are like taken care of when we move in, and if anything's broken, we just call the landlords or whatever, and they come and fix it and stuff. So we actually bought a place in New Jersey. This is the first time we've ever bought a house. And so it's way harder to be a homeowner, but it's way more fulfilling because whenever you make a repair or an upgrade to your house, you get so much gratification out of it. It's almost like a video game where you start off with this like a little tiny base or something, and then you slowly add on to it, and you see it grow and get bigger and
like
everything else.
Like a mother base.
Yeah.
Please Minecraft.
Yeah. Or that. I mean, that too.
But it's been crazy because my job, doing something completely different than what I had been doing. If you've been a long-time listener of the show, you might remember that I was a managing editor of an Air Force magazine. Well, now my new job, I'm basically teaching like combat techniques to people who are going to be deploying overseas. So it's way different, and I'm having to learn a lot. Which kind of can explain why I haven't really been around the website a whole lot within the past 2 months, just because there's been just so much going on between the move, the house, starting a new job, getting kids transitioned into school, just grown-up shit. It sucks because lots of grown-up shit with all of that, which takes me away from the website. And I guess most importantly, it means that I haven't really been able to play too many video games at all. I bought Metal Gear. I've gone through the very first part, like the prologue. Mm-hmm. I'm in Afghanistan, and that's where I stopped. So I'm about 45 minutes into Metal Gear. Have not been able to pick it up since.
Good news about it is that Sega hasn't released too many titles in that period
so
of
you
time.
Didn't miss much. In those 2 months, there wasn't that much released in between, July, and now it's September, so, not too much.
You only have 2 games to catch up, like 3D Gunstar Heroes and Project Mirai DX, and I'm pretty sure you don't want to play the Mickey one.
No, I did pick up Gunstar Heroes. I really have been enjoying that because I never actually got to play it on the Genesis, so that's been one of my favorite releases in a while. So I did get to play that just a little bit. Haven't been able to play. Actually, I have no idea where my 3DS is. That's a good question, actually.
Still in a box somewhere. Let's just go with that.
Probably. So you guys remember that awesome setup I had in my last house where you could see all the shelves full of video games and all that stuff, right? You guys remember that?
The only thing I remember vividly is that Alex kid
was naked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made that actually, the little like bead sprite or whatever. But so I had so much room in my basement in my last place. Now the one thing that I really just don't like about our new house is there's not really a family room or a basement or anything like that. So basically, all of my video games, everything you saw in the background, is stuffed in a closet now. All those shelves are in a closet. So it's the power closet, the closet of power now. There's just this strange glow that emanates from the door. You constantly see it. It's just there's just so much concentrated power in there that it just you feel the power, and it just emanates all the time. But it is kind of a bummer not to be able to really display your video games. I think most avid collectors of video games out there get a lot out of just kind of showing off their games, just going off and like going downstairs or going in the room, just looking at them sometimes, just like, man, I got a shit ton of games, and even if I'm not going to be able to play them, they're still mine. So mine is all just stuck in a room right now. Long term, we're kind of planning on doing an extension to the house and actually having a more of a family room, and hopefully within the next 5 years that'll happen, and I can actually go back and display them all again. So
I think we should just start a Kickstarter for that, and then you could just, get it done faster. Instead of 5 years, get it done in a year.
Or you can lend us your games in the meantime.
Yeah, or give us games, and then we'll hold on to them until you finish in 5 years.
And
hopefully you'll forget by then. Yeah, hopefully you'll forget in 5 years that we have them.
That's actually not a bad idea, guys. Maybe I'll take that under serious consideration.
Yes.
So.
All right.
That's our editor-in-chief. You heard him. He's the best around.
But what have you guys been doing? I mean, it's been 2 months since we last really joined, back on the podcast. What have you guys been up to in the last couple months?
Okay, Martin, you go first.
I mean, nothing too as crazy as you, because I guess I'm not an adult yet. It's been mostly work and helping around the website, doing some news. I went on vacation. I went to Tennessee the other week for a couple days with some friends. Spotted a bear, which is pretty cool. Like, for the first time I saw a bear, which is pretty cool.
In the wild?
In the wild, yeah. It wasn't like in a controlled area. It was actually right before we were hiking. Like on the path, we pulled over, and there was this mother bear and her kids, and we stayed 50 feet away because I don't want to die, and they probably get vicious if you get too close. But we got a couple of crappy shots of them because they kept moving. But yeah, I actually saw a bear, which was sweet.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah, other than that, other than vacation, it's been work. It's been, just living life, doing the daily grind, nothing amazing, so. What about you, Kopke? How about you?
My life and work has been as hell. Like, I had too much work, and it was to the point that I had to let go two clients because of that, because I wasn't able to keep up. And I was like pretty frustrated because of that. And also, I was invited to a couple of TV shows to speak about my book. I went there.
The show
hasn't. Yeah, I have a book. I have a children's book. It's called Where Color is Born, and it doesn't have text. It's just about pictures, and it's supposed to communicate to children who doesn't know how to read. And the thing is, I went to these TV shows, I recorded some of them, and they will be airing around this week, actually. And the other thing is that there's a video game magazine here in Mexico that's called Atomics, and I've been doing a couple of videos for them about toys unboxings. And that's pretty cool because those guys do go to TGS, so those guys are the ones who I can tell, hey, can you get me this from the Sega store? They go, sure.
I wish I had those connections.
I was like, yeah, and that got me pretty excited. The other things, well, I haven't been able to keep up that much with the site, but I said, like, okay, TES is coming, so I had to do an extra effort this week because the big news are coming this week. Because, Sega doesn't give us that much in E3, so... almost our kind of how do you say, like those kind of poor kid who can't buy the toys on Christmas. We're kind of like that with TGS because we see all the cool games but we can't get them.
Right.
So it's
like
kind of
Yakuza
cool,
6 or the Yakuza 1 remake.
That's
like,
pretty sad. And the other thing is that today is our National Day, and we don't have to work today, so it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And
I don't have to work just because it just kind of happened that way. So I don't. There's no national holiday for me,
yeah,
unfortunately.
and that's pretty much it.
Our kids
All
get
right.
Rosh Hashanah off, like here. I think it's going on this week.
Are you
And
Jewish?
no, but all the kids get the Jewish holiday off
Oh,
for
okay.
some reason.
That's cool.
Yeah, because you're close to New York.
So we told our kids that they have to read the Old Testament all day long on their day off. They were not very happy about it. So.
Did they do it?
Well, they have it's upcoming. So
Oh,
they're,
okay.
they're pretty pissed at it right now. So
Get those Bibles out.
yep.
That's
I don't
pretty-
know. Marcia, did you go? Did you go yet?
Did I go where?
Did you tell us what you've been up to?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Do
Well,
that.
shit.
Not
Man,
much.
I'm rusty. It's been a while. You gotta bear with me here. So anyway, what we want to do this week is we're kind of taking a departure from our regular structure of the Nerdcast, and it's basically going to just talk about TGS because that's really the only thing that's been going on, other than the fact that news dropped today. Maybe we could talk about this real quick, then we'll get into TGS. But the new Sonic Boom Fire and Ice has been delayed until 2016. Marcin, you wrote the story on this. What can you tell us about Fire and Ice? Because literally, the gaming industry is on the edge of its seats regarding Sonic Boom Fire and Ice. So
Yes.
what can you tell us?
I had someone who posted a funny comment. They're like, what's the hotline to so I could cope with my sadness that it was delayed to 2016. But yeah, so Sonic Boom Fire and Ice actually got delayed until next year. They didn't give a specific date for it. Basically, what they said, and I'll read this verbatim. They said, the team at Sega has decided to delay the release date of Sonic Boom Fire and Ice, which we announced for Nintendo 3DS earlier this year. In order to make sure the game has the time and polish needed, we're moving it out into 2016. No exact window from us just yet. It'll be ready when it's ready. So, whenever it's ready is what they're saying. But I think
that's fine.
yeah. So, I mean, what are you guys' opinion on the delay? And
So I think the easy thing to do here is make fun of it because it's Sonic Boom, and obviously there's probably some quality issues with the game right now, and that it's just not ready. Now, here's the thing, though, is that the number one criticism of Sonic Boom, Rise of Lyric, and Shattered Crystal was that Sega shipped incomplete games, that there were games that just they had really basic problems with them, fundamental issues that could have been rectified had they had more time. And I think a lot of what was kind of pushing that was the fact that the Sonic Boom animated TV show was going to be coming at a certain time frame, so they really didn't have the freedom to be able to push it back too far. So they don't have that anymore, and they have the time to be able to really focus and make it a better game. So I think from that standpoint, it's actually a good thing that they're saying, hey, you know what? Let's not push this out. Let's take some time. We'll delay it. There's really no reason that. I mean, who cares if it slips into 2017? Is anyone really gonna be too? I think at this point, no one really cares that much about the Sonic Boom franchise. So I would much rather say
A video game, right?
Right. Take as much time as you need for this game.
Yeah.
Because if this game comes out and it is not remarkably better than what Shattered Crystal was, I think the Sonic Boom franchise is done. This is like the last chance they get.
Well, I think the bar has been set so low that anything will probably be substantially better than the Wii U game or the 3DS game. So yeah, sorry to cut you off right there, but yeah, I agree. It's
yeah,
But
I completely agree with that.
But it's also like Sega can't test the waters right now. Like they had too much bad press with that game, so they can't afford like to release another bad game like that.
I agree. Sonic Boom really is. I think Sega of
Bad
America's
quality.
biggest
Bad quality
franchise.
milestone.
It's one of Sega of America's biggest franchises. It's the one franchise that they really have a lot of control over the development and everything outside of Sega Japan. So they want this franchise to succeed. They want to be able to have this ongoing, and I think Sega as a whole would really benefit from having Sonic Boom be very successful, having the mainline Sonic games be very successful, and either alternate years in which they release or release the same years or whatever they decide to do. But I think if Sonic Team can continue pushing out the mainline Sonic games and then Sanzaro does the Sonic Boom stuff, I think that'd be great for Sega. So I think taking the time to do this is the right way to go. So
also, there's not like big concerns from the community, so there's no rush.
Yeah, no reason to do it. So good move on Sega not rushing this out the door. But yeah, we'll see more in 2016. So big news coming out though. I mean, the big news of the week is really Tokyo Game Show. Kopke, you've been kind of the guy keeping track of all this. What can you tell us from what Sega's been doing at Tokyo Game Show this week?
Well, for a start, before the show started, there was this big talks between Satomi Jr., who is now the current CEO of Sega of Japan, and the whole Sega Sammy Corporation, which is the heir and son of the original Satomi Sr., who's now inheriting, the big title of being the big boss at the company. So he was saying like, okay, we're sorry guys, we really kind of betrayed our fans. We have to make things up and start to realizing that we did wrong and to start making a different turn for the company and start like getting this big renaissance for what we're doing. And they are starting to do so. You see all the big movements Sega of Japan is doing. The problem is that he's talking about Sega of Japan. It's obviously he has no total control for the other branches, like the European one or the American one. That's what concerns us about. But the thing is that if you look at the movements that Sega Japan is doing, it's like really brilliant what they're being accomplishing. For example, I want to point out that a big problem for Sega is that they're considered right now a niche game company. So a big problem is like, how do you make these new generations know about your company and to know about all these big franchises you have and these IPs, but you're not making profit from them? So they are making this triple bundle strategy, which is brilliant, like making animes or series or toys and then the video game, and all of them combined, all the people can want to get all this merchandise from them. So they also get money from the games and making good games, and then also make money from all this merchandising they're doing. It's kind of turning into a really nice responding profit machine. The problem is that we don't get those kind of things here, and that doesn't make us big amounts, and you don't work more to make the niche grow bigger. That's kind of a problem that's happening right now. But that being said, then Nagoshi said like, okay, we're bringing this Toshihiro Nagoshi, who's a Yakuza series producer, and it's also at the Sega director board. He came out and said, okay, guys, we know we have to make things up. We're going to make this TGS 2015 one of the best Sega TGS we've done as a company. And, they're starting to release all these lineups and merchandising and all the stuff they're throwing into this TGS show, and they're really keeping up to that promise. And it seems like it's going to be a really good show for them. It's been a while since we haven't seen like, the Sega people joining up a big conference just as the Sony one and get people excited of what they have to announce. And it's kind of the impression it's giving it. And I think they're going through right path right now.
All right, so as far as game announcements, what can you tell us about game announcements?
Okay, Okay, sorry, I was receiving a message. Okay, there were many announcements. Most of them are Sony-focused games, like
Which makes absolute sense if you really think
yeah.
about it. If you look at the way the really the video game the consoles are going right now. Xbox One obviously is not very big in Japan. Wii U has essentially been a failure in almost all regions as far as keeping up with what the Wii did. And really the PlayStation 4 has been the biggest console in almost every region in the world. So I think focusing on the PlayStation and probably PC, but on PlayStation is the way to go. So I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, it's also that the platform is really strong in Japan, and if they're like in the middle tier, like not in, they're one of the big publishers in Japan, but they also know how to make the most of their target, and I think Sony is the best way for them to reach that target. Like for most of the hardcore Japanese gamers are into Sony PlayStation. They don't want the Xbox because they don't play, the shooting games or the racing games. They play like most of these anime characters, RPGs, platformers, adventure games, and most of them are in the Sony platform. So it's pretty natural. Also, they have like a really strong attachment to their own Japanese console. So practically Xbox is like an enemy to them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really very well thought strategy to give more support to Sony. Like there's only two 3DS games, so there was none of the titles announced to Wii U or other platforms. So
yeah,
I think it's the right way to go for it.
So let's talk about big game announcements. What did Sega announce at TGS?
Okay, first, you want to go with the big list or the Sony conference list?
Let's go with the big list.
Okay, the big list is they started to announce the list a couple of days ago. The first two titles are fighting games aimed for PS3 and PS4. The first of them is a new version of the Fighting Climax title. It's called Fighting Climax Ignition, and what it's offering as new for the franchise is that it has a fixed system. Like the combat is more balanced. It has new characters, and it has a new story mode and stuff like that. And for the first time, the title is coming to PS4, and they're really pushing big with this title because in Japan it's pretty popular in arcades and in PS3. It sold really well, and mostly because it has a lot of the popular anime characters right now. Well, light novel, which is the correct term for this. So Fighting Climax Ignition is one of the big titles they'll be pushing at TES, and people got really excited about it. So the other fighting title they announced is Blade Arcus from Shining. This was a fighting game that has a crossover between all the Shining series characters, RPG. But these ones are not our old Shining Force characters. These ones are more of the from PS2 and on, which were the ones that were designed by artist Tony Taka, which are more anime based and in a different kind of RPG strategy. So they're throwing those characters into this fighting game. It's kind of popular in Japan, but it is really a niche game. It's not as it doesn't involve that much of a target like the Dengeki Bunko does. And the thing is that it's coming to consoles, it's coming to PS3 and PS4, and even if the game is a fighting game and it might be popular, I don't think this game is going outside Japan because it's very niche based.
Right.
The other title they announced, it's a very anime-centered title. It's called Magical Girls Festival, which is another rhythm game.
Oh,
it's another rhythm game. It uses the same engine that the Hatsune Miku Project Diva series uses, but it makes the other thing is that it has a reskin with a lot of female anime characters. And
I love that real skin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, the thing is that they are going to launch this title around December because they are planning to the launch to match up with the Japanese Comiket so all these otakus and manga consumers can buy the game. So that's a pretty devilish strategy from them, and I think it's going to work. The game will be available at TES as a demo. It's the title the same for PS Vita. And the other game, it's a very interesting one. It's a PC game. It's called The World End Eclipse. It is also going to mobile, like Android and iOS. But what this game has in particular is that it's an RPG. It's a free-to-play game, but it's an RPG. It's an strategy game. It's an exploration game, and it's also an action RPG. So this game kind of has a different, innovative system, very different than PSO2 or other RPGs. So it's basically like playing. I don't know. It's kind of resembles what the Shining series has, but with RTS and also with exploration, and puzzles and stuff like that. It seems pretty interesting, and it's cross-platform, so you can have your account with your mobile device and also have the PC account. So finally, this game is coming out because they announced this game at the previous TES. Like, the press really hyped up with this game, but the problem is that Sega decided to delay this game until this year, mostly because they wanted this game to become better. And I think that was the right push, because the Japanese press is really excited for this title, and it seems pretty interesting. The next title is Project Diva X, which is the new Hatsune Miku rhythm game series, entry in the series. The game is coming to PS Vita and PS4, and the PS Vita demo is currently at TES. The PS4 is supposed to be somewhere around fall next year. So the PS Vita version will come earlier in 2016. And let's see how it goes with this, because Miku is pretty popular there, and it already has a big fan base here. Another title that is coming out from them. Let me see. Let me try to remember. It's this one. I think we're done with the regular list, right? Not the Sony announcements. Oh, sorry, I forgot one, and it's a really important one. It's a 3DS title. It's called Seven Dragon 3, code BFD, and it's the third entry in the Seven Dragon series. We never had this game here. It's an astonishing RPG. It's one of the best PSP RPGs ever done. It was done by Image Epoch, and the soundtrack of this game is made by Yuzo Koshiro of Streets of Rage fame. The soundtrack is really awesome. If you are not able to get the game, at least get the soundtrack, because it's really kicking ass. Yuzo Koshiro did an astonishing work, and the soundtrack even has some Hatsune Miku collaboration. So it's really innovative to see Yuzo Koshiro collaborating with Hatsune Miku on some music tracks. It's a pretty interesting title. But the thing is that the third entry is coming up for 3DS, and people are really excited about it. It also features artwork by manga artist Shiro Miwa, so it's a really killer app for them. It's an RPG people are looking forward to. And that's a regular list. You know, they also have like 2 collaboration titles. The first of them is Project X Zone 2, which features lots of Sega characters, but the title is developed and it's developed by Monolith, but it's published by Bandai Namco. So this title will be at the Bandai Namco booth, TS. And the other title is a crossover with Compile Heart, which was formerly Compile. And it's an RPG called Sega Heart Girls versus Hyperdimension Neptunia. And the game will be available, would be showcased at TGS. And the rest of them are titles being distributed by Sega, some of them by Electronic Arts, and some of them by Warner. And that's pretty much it. Or Mages. Mages also makes some interesting RPGs. Those RPGs will be published and distributed by Sega. Well, no, not published, distributed by them. And some Compile Heart ones, mostly RPGs for the PS Vita. Now, do you guys want to go with the Sony list?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, then
This
yesterday.
is what a lot of people I think are going to be excited about.
Yeah.
Okay,
like me.
Then yesterday there was this big announcements at the Sony conference at Tokyo Game Show. And the first one is that Toshihiro Nagoshi came to the stage and said that they're celebrating the Ryuga Gotoku 10th anniversary series. 10, yes, the Ryuga Gotoku series 10th anniversary, sorry.
Has it been really 10 years since the first game came out?
Yeah, the first game came out in 2007.
Oh.
And then they're celebrating the game by releasing 2 new titles. The first title is I don't know how to call it. If it's remake or remaster.
It's because probably a remake. Because it's not simply a upscale, right? Because they're actually redoing the graphics. It's not simply like it's the PS2 game and then it has a little bit of shine on it, right? It's just like a complete remake, right?
Well, it's not that they're rebuilding the engine or rebuilding the assets, but they are adding extra content to it and revamping the graphics. It's for example, they said they're including some levels or some part of the story that they weren't able to include while making the original one because of the PS2 disc limitations or the hardware limitations. So they are throwing some extra content, but it's not precisely like doing the game again because they are reusing the assets but improving the game. So I don't know. It's like in the middle of remake and remaster. It's something like in the mid tier. So they are throwing that game. It's called Yakuza Ryuga Gotoku Kawami, I think. I don't remember the word right now.
Yeah, Kiwami.
Kawami, okay. And the other title is a new entry on the series, Yakuza 6. So we already have 6 games already. This is the 7th entry in the story.
Have they announced anything as far as like storyline or anything like that? Did they announce?
No, they haven't said. They haven't said anything. They just said that the game is coming in the next year, in fall next year. And as for the Yakuza Kawami, which is a remaster of the first one, is coming in January 16 next year, and they already set a price for it.
I won't be surprised. It seems like they just keep going like further and further in the past with some of these Yakuza games. I wouldn't be surprised if it is like Yakuza set in like the Paleolithic age or something like that.
Well, what is happening? Like the first game came out on the PS2, I think they just want to, bring it to the current gen because that's 2 generations behind, and then maybe they want to introduce it to a new audience. In my opinion, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, Yakuza is pretty popular there. He sells a lot. Actually, it's it's the only title that is almost on par with PS2 in sales there. So I think they're going big with it. Also, Yakuza is pretty identified as a Sony platform title, so it's going into the correct platform for it. And the other 2 announcements was I never saw this one coming because I never expected this. They said they're going to bring an arcade port to PS4, which is Project Diva Future Tone. It's a Sega arcade for Hatsune Miku in Japan. They're bringing a port of it to the PS4. And the other title they announced is Project Diva X, which we already talked about. And they also showed that the Hatsune Miku demo for the formerly Project Morpheus, now called PlayStation VR, at the conference. So they basically announced 5 titles.
Wow.
What about Phantasy Star Online 2? Is that also coming to the PS4, right?
They also mentioned that one. It's coming to PS4 with a new episode. So not only we are 5 years behind, we are not getting it in the platform.
At this point, I think people should just give up on Phantasy Star. Honestly, I would much rather get a mainline Phantasy Star game as a traditional RPG that continues or takes the series into a new path, rather than a Phantasy Star Online game. Just because it's very clear Sega has no intentions of bringing PSO back out to the West. So I think I don't know. I just don't see it ever happening at this
Well,
point.
even if they do put a new entry, though, do you think they'd bring that new entry to the West? You know, like, do they
Yeah, I
just
don't think
think
so.
it's a marketable,
Yeah,
IP
because
for Western audiences?
I don't think they will do because in the past year, in 2014, and this one, Sega has been making re-releases of the former Sega Ages collection for the Phantasy Star titles. You know, the title, the first four Phantasy Stars are available on the Japanese PlayStation Network.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you ever wanted to reintroduce these games to an audience, this was a way, and it hasn't happened in the West.
I
So
think
they're clearly not going for it.
have we finally finished all the major releases for Sega
Yeah, yeah.
TGS? Okay, so
For
I
now,
think
yes.
one of the things, if you really look at the games that Sega announced outside of Hatsune Miku, which they have brought over here, but even including that, if you really want to include that, most of these games are really, really geared towards Japanese gamers, and you could argue that some of the Western audiences that is very, 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 very small, who enjoy importing some of these Japanese-centric games. If you look at the majority of gamers in the U.S. and in England, they probably aren't the ones who are importing Japanese games and things like that. So I just think if you look at the direction that Sega of Japan is going, it is very Japanese-centric with the games they're developing, the games they're coming out with. And it kind of leads us to our next topic in that what games out of this lineup do you think could possibly come our way? And I'm looking at the list, and I'm not sure that there's a lot that I have confidence that Sega will actually bring out this way. What do you guys think?
Well,
Okay.
have they completely announced their whole lineup? Because I think they're still doing things up until the end of this week, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I think
TS hasn't
there are
finished.
other things
Yeah.
that I agree with Chris about is the West is getting a little shafted when it comes to a lot of the games that are coming out specifically for Japanese audiences. And I think what they need to do is actually take a page from the book of Nintendo and two of their IPs where it gets really popular in Japan and then they westernize it, like Pokemon and then now Yokai Watch, right?
But
Yokai
they
Watch.
don't do that because, for example, Phantasy Star Online 2 is really popular there, and it's been 5 years and the game isn't out here.
Right. But maybe it doesn't even have to be Phantasy Star Online. It could be a completely new IP. They could revamp Sonic the Hedgehog or something. Like how they have for Pokemon or Yokai or whatever. They have an anime. They have the game. Like you said, they have this package, like you said, where it's the anime, the toys, and the game. And they need to take that idea and actually apply it to some of their IPs, and then for a Western audience, I think would be a smart thing that they should do. I don't know if maybe they already have something like that in their arsenal. Maybe they're planning on releasing something. But currently, like Chris said, a lot of this is really Japanese focused. A lot of people want Phantasy Star Online, but we're not going to get Phantasy Star Online 2. Same with Yakuza. It's possible we'll get 0 and 6 and the remake eventually, but I mean the track record has been maybe not, or 2 years tops. So yeah.
Okay, here's the thing. I think um, it's not possible for most of these games to come out, and mostly because, like you said, some of them are really Japanese oriented, but also some of them are very aimed to the Sega hardcore audience. And the
Mm-hmm.
problem that's happening right now in the West is that the West kind of doesn't invest in what's not going to give them huge profit. And it's kind of understandable from the standpoint of a company, but it's also a little bit cruel to the hardcore fans because these hardcore fans, for much as a minority you want to call them, are the guys who have been like supporting you since the 80s. And this way is alienating them because, for example, what happens with the Shining series fan? What happens with the Puyo Puyo series fans? Because there's an audience for them. as much as you want to call it like small, it exists, and the problem is that it is not reaching those things that they want. So they are starting to skip the middleman, which is like the Sega West, and they're starting to port the things on their own so that they get what they want. So that's kind of a problem because you are losing the audience that's loyal to you because you're not fitting in. But it's also understandable from the company point of view because those those fans are not like the million fans that GTA has or that Call of Duty has. And Sega West wants that kind of audience. They want like these big titles. For example, Alien Isolation was a big title for them, and they will be pushing some kind of titles for it to aim to get those sales. And you can understand that kind of movement because you have a lot of employees. It's really expensive to make or to bring these games. For example, what happens with titles like 3D Classics, you'd invest that much to bring them here. So, for example, you invest a little and you maximize that capital because everybody's gaining those 3D Classics. In digital, it doesn't cost that much, so you make profit from it. But the problem for titles like Yakuza or Phantasy Star Online 2 is that you have to make some kind of big investment to bring them over. Like servers or like making a huge localization for Phantasy Star Online 2, who has now like 3 episodes long. It's also an RPG, has lots of dialogues, has a lot of stuff to do. So for Sega, it's like, I'm not going to get millions from this. So sorry, fans, but I have to backstab you and not bring this game here. And the problem is that one of the things they say is that they consider these games too niche, but the problem is that the niche or the fan base tends to become smaller by time. But the problem is that you are not Sega is not making this audience grow because it's not giving them more to make them bigger. So, for example, titles like are your main IPs like Phantasy Star or like Shining, you're not giving them more material for the fans to, keep growing and have more interest in the series, or not making cartoons, or not bringing those cartoons here so that people start getting interested in them. It is also like a double-edged sword that they are not using.
Well, I agree. I agree. They should appeal to appeal to both sides of the coin. They should appeal to the niche audiences, like you said, the Shining Force or the Puyo Puyo, audiences who still love those series but aren't getting the love back from Sega because of the focus on profits and stuff. But I think what they could do is create an IP or create some sort of game where they can get a large profit, but also appeal to the loyal fan base. Have some goodwill from the fans.
For example,
that have been
Sonic
there
All-Star
for so many
Racing
years.
Transform did that. I think they should push more titles like Sonic All-Stars Racing Transform. Like you got all these characters and reintroduce them.
Right.
That was the kind of way. And also, for example, a thing that happened in Japan was the launch with the Sega Hard Wheels anime. I think it was like a Trojan horse because it was a way for Sega to tell the younger audiences that all these games, all these IPs, all these consoles exist. And it resonated really well for them because that way they were able to learn more about the past of Sega, which not everybody knows about it. It's really niche centered, and that was a good way to do that. I think Sega needs to push an internal program to make people know what its past and its IPs are of. And I think they are throwing a nice, interesting strategy, like selling the rights to make movies, like Golden Axe movie, like they said it, like they want to make movies about Virtua Fighter, what was Afterburner, all these old titles to bring them back so that people can know. I think that's a good strategy to resonate. The problem is that there are some IPs that you have, and Sega has a lot of them, that they are sitting on, and they are not moving and resonate with the fans. So the problem is that, okay, you're selling Hatsune Miku to resonate to a new audience and to make profit. It's working, okay. But the problem is that, let's suppose Piapro fights with Sega and you lose the rights for Hatsune Miku. What's left for them?
Sonic?
Like, that's right, it's Sonic. And what's it with the others? You have Space Harrier, you have the Shining series, you have Sega Gaga, you have Restart, you have a lot of characters that resonate with the audience that you're not using. And not only you are not using them,
Shenmue
you are
HD.
making
Has to
you are
throw that in
making
there.
you are making the fan bases smaller by the time, because
Right.
by the more the time passes, the more these fans are getting pissed, and you don't have a program to resonate with them. I think that's kind of a big problem.
Well, luckily the TGS hasn't ended yet, and it's only been 2 months since they announced that they're turning a new leaf and that they're going to focus on quality over quantity and releasing annual games of things that are underdeveloped, like the Sonic Boom game. So what do we expect from them at Tokyo Game Show, since it's still going on, and also for the future of the company?
Phantasy Star Online New Leaf.
I think they
He
get
is so
sued by
creepy.
Animal Crossing. There's like an Animal Crossing New Leaf game somewhere. But yeah, I don't know about Phantasy Star Online, but I agree. You talked about how there is the Golden Axe, apparently a Golden Axe movie, but it's strange for me to see a Golden Axe movie when there hasn't been a Golden Axe game in a
But
while.
I think that's an excuse. That's an excuse. For example, what happened? What they're doing with this mobile game strategy. Like, for example, Train Chronicle has this anime, but also has this game, and they try to launch them on pair. So, for example, if they make a Golden Axe movie, it's probable that we eventually get a new Golden Axe game to resonate with the movie.
Well, do you think the game should come out first before the movie, or do you think it doesn't matter?
I think what matters first is to people to know what the franchise is about, and then starting to get into the game. I think the movie would be the first step for that. It's exactly what happened with Sonic Boom or Sega Hard Girls. They're following this strategy for most IPs. For example, Sonic Boom, the cartoon came out first, so that people said, "Oh, the cartoon rules, I must get the game." But the problem was that the game wasn't on pair with the animation. And for example, with the Sega Hard Girls, like the cartoon resonated well with the people, so they said, "Okay, let's do a game for it, so what we can maximize into selling more merchandise and selling more stuff from these characters." So I think that's the right strategy. The problem is, how are you making that in the West so that it can resonate back with the fans?
Right.
I think the only thing that Sega of Japan has up its sleeve at this point that's going to really, like Kopke said, resonate with gamers outside of Japan is going to be the next Sonic game. It's probably not going to be announced or really talked about at Tokyo Game Show. It's going to be at the big anniversary for Sonic. And so that's what we're probably going to have to wait for to see what Sonic Team has in store. And I think that's really going to be the big game for Sega coming in either 2016 or whenever that game is going to be released. So I don't really see too much coming out of TGS that's going to get people excited about.
I think what we might get is a new Tenkaichi Bunko Fighting Climax entry, because the game will be releasing here. And we already know that it has some kind of a core audience that will buy that game. And it's probably going to happen, like Marvel vs. Capcom and then launching Marvel vs. Capcom Ultimate. That's kind of the thing that's going to happen. Aside from that, I don't see... Well, the Miku games are probably going to come here. But aside from those two, I don't think the other games are coming here.
Well, what about Project X Zone? Did that feature Sega characters?
Yeah, but that's not a Sega game. That's a Bandai Namco game. So
I mean, as long as it features Sega IP, as long as it gets some sort of exposure.
Well, the thing with Bandai Namco is that they have a lot of money and they have a lot of power to invest and to make their IPs flourish in other countries, regardless of what characters they have. Like, for example, if they have a Naruto licensed game, they obviously make efforts to bring the anime here and then bring all these toys and all these video games and to resonate. Like, Bandai Namco is huge and they have like a lot of structure to do that. The problem is Sega doesn't, and they can do that. So I think what I said with that point is that Sega West must develop a strategy or a program to make this past and this history as knowledge for the people, so that people can resonate with their characters or their IPs. I think they lack of that, and they need to do that because not everyone knows what a master system is, and it's a console that was launched here, and that's kind of a problem.
All right, Marcin. So, parting shot, last piece for the Nerdcast this week. What could Sega do to get you excited during TGS?
Well, I mean, I'd say Shenmue HD because I'm a huge Shenmue fan. I think that's still possible because Yu Suzuki is going to make an appearance if he hasn't already. We forgot to mention that PayPal is going to be launching soon, apparently this week, according to a member from the Shenmue Dojo. I think.
Also, Cedric Biscay confirmed it.
Yes.
Right after Chris published it.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So there you go. So PayPal will be launching this week. I think by bringing Shenmue HD to the West, at least that's some form of goodwill towards the fan base. You know what I mean? I think that's also on that level of a niche audience that's getting its dues. I think. Like Kopke said, there has to be a sort of resurrection of their old IPs because they have so many good IPs that they could, use and actually integrate into new generation technology. Like a new Knights game, Golden Axe, Alex Kidd, Billy Hatcher.
Panzer
You know what I mean?
Dragoon.
Yeah, Panzer Dragoon. You have all these games that you have that you're not using because you're worried about. Well, obviously failing, and I understand that. Obviously, from a company standpoint, you don't want to lose money, but you won't get anywhere without taking certain chances if you're just going to constantly be releasing, stagnant, stale stuff that no one is buying, And if you want to broaden your audience and actually appeal to a Western audience, pull those IPs out, even if it's a crossover game with like every Sega IP that you've created, maybe like it's a Super Smash Bros. Type fighting game or another All Stars Racing, at least something, you know what I mean?
Even a mobile game with cards with all the characters. I think that works.
Right. Reintroduce them to a new audience because clearly it's been a couple of years since some of these games have come out. People have never heard of some of these before. Short memory span. They've never heard of it. They're like, huh? Some people that they're appealing to right now haven't even been born yet. So I mean, you have a whole new audience who's ready to give you your money as long as you know how to properly market your IP. So, yeah. Parting shots.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So we will be back again this weekend to really just do a full recap of TGS. So hopefully, we'll get some more exciting news. But you know what? I think there's some exciting things in store for Sega. They're doing some neat stuff. I just hope that we can get in on some of that action for us here in the West. So
what I have a hunch they are bringing some Dreamcast stuff back again because of the quantity of work they are releasing regarding that.
Where the fuck?
For example, there's been a lot of Space Channel 5, Shenmue, and the Dreamcast IP in their merch lately, or even in their releases. Or for example, they're doing this symphonic concert. And most of the songs included there are from these titles. So
maybe we'll get another bass fishing game. That's what we need.
Oh God! Or Seaman.
I'll be in for that.
Or Sega GT Racing.
Yeah.
If that game even comes as a niche game, I will buy it. Like Sega Fishing resonates with the fans more than Project Diva does.
Probably.
To be Sega Bass Crazy Fishing Taxi.
Yeah, featuring all your favorite Sega characters. Why not?
I think that would work.
For us, for
Big the Cat Fishing Bass.
Yeah.
Week. We'll be back this weekend. We are out. We'll see you later. Take it easy.
See you guys.
Bye.